Hi, I'm Nick with DuramaxTuner.com. Today on Diesel Insights, we're going to cover a topic that I'm going to call Advanced Diagnostics for Shift-on-the-Fly switches. So if you already have a switch and you've installed it, hopefully you've used the instructions. If not, they're located here. It'll tell you what color wires and what pins they go in and what connector, and make sure you get your pins and your wires right in the right hole. Also, our instructions will tell you how to log the truck to make sure it's switching tunes using your Spade programming tool. Those instructions can also be found here. Now that we've covered the easy stuff, let's get into the advanced topics. First thing, make sure your switch colors on the wires match what the instructions say. Okay, different switches have different voltages, different resistances across all the different platforms. So this video is intended to cover from 2.8 Duramax to Ford to Ram to whatever you're switching tunes on, okay? Make sure your switch colors match what the instructions say. Moving on. Most switches look like this, never mind the wire color, okay? Basically a circuit board, the ability to switch tunes. They'll come with a nut. That nut is going to hold a lock washer and a tooth washer onto the switch. This tooth washer often gets overlooked. We sometimes get customers call us and tell us they have 12 positions on their switch. Instead of charging them twice as much as we did for the original sale, I've helped them get their switch back to 5 positions or 4 positions. So what we need to do is make sure this tooth washer is in the right spot. So when you put the switch on, good thing to do is move the switch all the way counterclockwise, okay? And then count the number of holes you're going to have on your tune. So if you have a 5-position switch, you'd need count 4 holes in. If you have a 4-position switch, you'd be 3 holes in. Easiest way to check. Okay, let's say this is for an 01 to 05 or 01 to 04 Duramax. I'm going to count 4 holes, 1, 2, 3, 4. Put my tooth washer in the right hole, and now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Can't go any further, no DSP 6. Okay, so I have 5 tunes. When I put that through the interior piece, and put my lock washer on, put my nut on, tighten this thing into place, make sure I still have 5 tunes. Now guys, when you're tightening this nut, don't get crazy, okay? It's plastic threads. If you clicked on the links that I previously pointed to, you'd be able to log the truck while it was switching tunes. So you'd have your data logger running as you switch tunes, and you'd be able to see CSP1, CSP2, CSP3, CSP4, and make sure that the truck is switching tunes. Similar to DSP, if it's a Ford, you're looking for the fuel temp PID. If it's an LML, likewise, you're looking for the fuel temp PID. Basically, I'm counting on you at this point in the video to be able to say that you have looked at the PID while logging the truck and it is switching tunes, but you still don't feel a difference, and that is why you are frustrated and need my help. Because from here, we're going to jump into the Ford behind me. I'm going to take you for a ride. I'm going to show you what I'm going to look at in the log file that I have you send me to troubleshoot why your truck doesn't feel like it's switching tunes. Because there's some things that you can look at, whether you have a CTS or any other scan tool or even just a boost gauge. So let's jump in the truck and I'll show you how I do it. All right, so we're in the Ford, we're driving, and if you called me and told me you had switch issues and we verified that your switch was in fact switching, but you still couldn't feel anything, this is what I would have you do. I would send you out in the truck and then have you start in tune 1 and do some full throttle logs for me. What I mean by full throttle logs is find a quiet place on a straight road, and you don't have to go stupid fast with the truck, just fast enough so we can get an idea of if the load is changing. And when I say load, I mean there's a few things that I look at to determine if the truck is indeed making more power without putting it on a dyno or similar. So one is I can look at fuel rate, and if you look on the far right hand side of the edge, the second PID down fuel rate, cylinder rate, shows about 35 right now. Now on this Ford, that indicates how much fuel the truck is making. So when I put the truck in tune 1 and I floor it through a couple of gears, as I'm going to do in a couple seconds here, I'll watch the cylinder rate. I'm looking for the max value, so 133. Okay? So that tells me that the max value is 133. Now similarly, I could look at boost. Let's say I don't have a CTS, I can look at the boost pressure on the turbo gauge on the Ford. But that cylinder fuel rate is a really useful PID for me. So 133, okay, so I'm gonna turn it up to tune 5. And now I'm just gonna let the truck coast down, and I'll floor it again and look at that cylinder fuel rate. Now I'm seeing over 200. So clearly the truck is switching tunes, okay? We saw 206. Now it didn't stabilize right there like the 133 did, but we got a pretty good idea. Now let's say you go to tune 5 and you don't see the value that you're supposed to see. So my guys will tell you roughly what kind of fuel rate you'll be looking for. Let's say it's 180, but you're only seeing 140. Maybe you got 110 on the base file, and then you're getting 140 on the peak tune. Then what we would have you do is turn down from tune 5. We'd have you try tune 1, 2, 3, and 4, and we can really narrow down on where the truck is falling off. So 9 times out of 10, it's either a lack of air or a lack of fuel. And for one of those reasons, the truck is going to limit power. Now remember, you just installed our tuning with switchable programming. If you're not getting all 5 tunes, or you're not feeling it switch through all 5 tunes, what that's going to indicate to us is that the truck is not happy for some reason and can't make power beyond a certain tune. Our goal is to narrow down which tune that is. So maybe it feels like it's switching up to tune 3, but you don't feel any difference between 4 and 5. Well, you probably don't have enough fuel pressure, you got a weak CP3, or you don't have a lift pump, or for some reason the truck is down on fuel pressure and is unable to support tune 4 and 5. Similarly, you might have an oiled air filter and the MAF might be contaminated, and therefore not allow the truck to read the proper airflow and not allow it to fuel all the way. And when it does that, you don't get the full fuel rate of tune 5. You might get the full fuel rate in tune 2 and 3, maybe occasionally in tune 4, but not 5. So it's going to really help us narrow down, what might be going on with the truck. Now, if you don't have a CTS, let's say you have an earlier truck, if you have a manual boost gauge, you can use the manual boost gauge. Same thing, run the truck in tune 1, rip on it, run it in tune 5, rip on it, write down those peak boost numbers at the same time in the log. So maybe it's right before it shifts into 5th gear or at 80 miles an hour. We want consistency in your reporting. If we don't have consistency, it's really not useful. Another thing I want to highlight is that when you're doing these tests, it's important to run the truck at full throttle, not half throttle, not 60% throttle, not 80%. You need to floorboard the truck, because you're not going to feel the difference between tune 3 and 5 at 30% throttle or 50% throttle. You might not even feel it at 80% throttle, but once you get past that 80% throttle, then the truck is still calling for more fuel in tune 5, but it's not in tune 3. So a lot of guys install these tunes and they think they're going to feel it. If they just flinch at the throttle pedal or look at the throttle pedal sideways, they're going to feel the change in tunes. That's not it. You're not going to feel those changes in tunes at low speeds. You're only going to feel it when you need the extra power and when you're loading the truck down. So let's do that similar test with boost instead of fuel rate. So in the center of my screen, just below vane position, which is the big number, you'll see MAP pressure. That's manifold air pressure. So what I'm going to do is floor the truck and look at manifold air pressure. I'm going to see my peak, right? Okay. So I know what that is. And now I can go to tune 5 and see if it changes. Now often MAP is not as good of an indicator as fuel rate. Fuel rate is really precise on how much torque the truck is going to make. The fuel rate is almost directly tied to how much torque and power the truck makes. The boost number, not tied quite as closely to how much power the truck can make. Anyway, so we're in tune 5, floor it again. We'll see the peak numbers there. So were the peak numbers higher, were the peak numbers lower? If the peak numbers were the same, there's a good chance that you're still in the same tune as you were in tune 1. If the peak numbers are appreciably different, the truck switch tunes. While you're going through these exercises, really the numbers that you're looking for can only be reviewed by your tuner. So if you got your truck tuned somewhere else, I'm not really going to be able to help you, because the tuner knows what fuel rate and what boost numbers they're calling for and what the truck should be doing in each tune. If I didn't tune the truck, I can't tell you that. I can only tell you, yes, it's switching, or no, it's probably not switching. What I'd love to see you do after watching this video is do these experiments on your own truck. If you think the truck isn't switching the way it should, write down the values that you're getting as you're doing these tests, and then call us with those numbers. It'll really make your situation go a lot smoother on the phone. 9 times out of 10, we'll be able to help you out on the first phone call. We won't have to do revisions or send you different review different log files with you. If we can help you troubleshoot the truck and get it sorted out in the first phone call, that's our priority. We want to get you figured out as soon as we can. We want you as happy as we can with our product. So I hope you appreciated this video. I'm Nick Priegntiz. This has been another Diesel Insights. If you enjoyed it, subscribe to the channel. We'll catch you in the next one.